good to see each of you. Hope everyone had a good afternoon. And thankful that you're here tonight. If you have your Bibles, I invite you to look in the book of Proverbs chapter 12. Proverbs chapter 12. We're going to begin our reading in verse number 1 as we continue to look at more of these contrasts that are provided by Solomon here. And just thinking about that song, while we have time, because we don't know how much time we have left, right? And the part that talks about the days going by fast. Quite a few folks that graduated with me that I've seen in the last month or so that they have kids that are graduating or graduated this year, and I'm not sure that I'm old enough for that to be the case. And I don't remember them having youngins when we were in school. So it goes by really, really fast. And we have to make the most of every bit of time we have, don't we? And Proverbs chapter 12 will begin in verse number 1. Whoso loveth instruction loveth knowledge, but he that hateth reproof is brutish. So whoever loves instruction loves knowledge. Wisdom tells us, we've heard the saying, and I'm sure that you've heard it before, that you never stop learning, right? That's life, is it not? It doesn't matter what we're involved in or what we're doing. We are continuously learning. And so wisdom tells us to keep learning and to love instruction and knowledge. And, it takes sometimes, the older we get, the more we feel like we've figured more things out, which you may have, right? But anybody here got it all figured out? No, absolutely not. None of us have figured it all out. And so sometimes we have to be willing to humble ourselves to be able to be taught. If you walk around and think that you know it all and think that you figured it all out and that you've got it all together, you're going to be a very hard person to teach. And here, that's what this is talking about, is that, hey, we have to be willing to do that. And to be willing to humble yourself and be able to be taught means that you really have a true love for knowledge, that you want to learn, you want to grow, you want to mature. And if we're the type of person that, even in the sense of having our faults pointed out to us, because having our faults pointed out to us is really even that's a way of learning, right? If nobody ever tells us that what we're doing is wrong, how are you going to know how to do it right? You're not. And so sometimes your faults are going to be pointed out to you. However, how you respond to that is important. If you respond and if you have them pointed out to you and you get upset by it and you're not happy with it, then that shows that not only do you lack grace and understanding, but when you look at the next part of that verse, he who loves instruction loves knowledge. You want to learn, you want to grow, you want to be, you don't mind being instructed, having your fault. But he that hateth reproof is brutish. What does brutish mean? Oh, man. That is Solomon used some pretty strong word there, didn't he? He says, listen, if you hate reproof, you're stupid. You just don't want to learn, again, you're rejecting that knowledge, and so it's your choice. You can be that if you want to, and you can present yourself or to be foolish and stupid if you want. But if you can accept reproof, if you can accept correction and have the ability to accept whenever somebody says, hey, you might have messed up there, or you should not have done that, then and you can learn from it, then you're willing to grow and willing to learn. But if you're not, then you can just remain ignorant if you want, or brutish. Don't go start calling everybody brutish now. Some of y'all that's going to be one of your new phrases, this new words this week. Somebody messes up or makes you mad, and you're brutish. They're gonna they're gonna probably think you called them British, and that's not it at all. If you're lucky, that's what they'll think you called them. But hopefully, they don't go look that word up. Hey Siri, what does British mean? But anyway, so you can either want to learn and want to grow and love it and have a passion for it, or you can be the person that hates it and remain brutish if you want. Verse number 2, a good man obtaineth favor of the Lord, but a man of wicked devices will he condemn. This good man, what is good? What do you think he means by a good man? Because the Bible says there's none good, right? So clearly he's not just referring to somebody who is good in their own ways. What do you think he means by a good man? A righteous, somebody who is obedient to God. So this obedience to God, what does that lead to? It leads to a deeper relationship with Him, right? It helps you to grow, and this principle would have definitely been true under the old covenant with its promises of blessings for obedience and curses for disobedience. But that's still true today, right? God will bless you for your obedience, but if you want to be disobedient, there's consequences that come along with that. And so, a good man obtains favor. An obedient man obtains favor with the Lord. But on the flip side of that, he says, a man of wicked intentions will he condemn. Notice what it says there. It doesn't say of wicked acts. You see that? Intentions. What are intentions? When you plan to do it, it's really what's in here. Doesn't mean that you've even acted on it. But he says, when you look at that, a man of wicked devices or wicked intentions will he condemn. So it doesn't even have to be somebody, because listen, I don't necessarily know your intentions. However, God knows your every intention. He knows the desires and thoughts of your heart. He's aware of all that. And so He's going to condemn that. He's not going to bless that. And, again, wicked intentions, even before they result in action, even if they never result in action. So, it doesn't even have to be something that you actually carry out for Him to condemn them for it. He can condemn you for the intention of doing that. In verse number 3, a man shall not be established by wickedness, but the root to care for them. You were to have compassion towards them, and this is there's a true sense in which the animal really belongs to God, doesn't it? Everything belongs to Him. So that animal is His, and God gives, God gave man authority and dominion over the animals, not to abuse, not to not care for, but to take care of and to have compassion, and and so we're to exercise that authority with care and compassion. So that's what a righteous man is going to do. But then he says the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. Mercies and cruel don't typically go together, do they? But he's telling you that, look, even the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. Even the, they have their own, and this is why, is because the wicked have their own selfish and self-interest in mind, and again, the wicked man can be cruel even in their kindness. It's almost like, hey, I'll help you, but it's going to cost you. I'm not going to let you live this down. There's always going to, you ever have somebody that you just didn't want to help or didn't want to ask for help because you felt like they'd hold over your head the rest of your life? Yeah, most of the time that's how wicked people are. They're going to hold over your head. They're not going to let you forget it because it's all about them. Look at what I did. Look at how I helped you. Look at what I done for you. And so that's what he talks about here, is that even the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. There's nothing good going to come out of that whenever it's a wicked person. Verse number 11, he that tilleth his land shall be satisfied with bread, but he that followeth vain persons is void of understanding. Why do you think that the person that tills his land is satisfied with bread? They earned it. They put in the labor for it. There is something satisfying. I'm sure anybody that's ever farmed or gardened or whatever, that they may have had some unpleasant thoughts as they were getting the ground ready, or they were, and I say that because I had to help my wife till her garden one time. And anyway, we did it. I did it. And out of love for my wife. But there's something rewarding whenever you get to reap the benefits of that. It may have been hard work, but you're going to be satisfied with it whenever you get it. And so that's what that's what he means there, is that, hey, you're going to be satisfied. You work hard, you're going to be satisfied with it, and you understand that it's God's blessing. But this next part of this verse is, he that followeth vain persons is void of understanding. If you follow frivolity, you are devoid of understanding. And the one who lives for vain or superficial things is what that's talking about. And they lack something worse than bread. They lack understanding. And, because they're chasing the wrong things. They're seeking after things that are not going to bring any good. They're seeking after things that don't bring any benefit. They're seeking after things that aren't going to help them. They're just seeking to go after the things that are superficial. And I think that's where we have to look at, and when Jesus talked about laying up treasures, he didn't say collect however many toys you can on this earth, right? Where did he say? He said, lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. And, I think that whenever you look at this, that the one who is as he says there in verse 11, that followeth vain persons, if that's what you're chasing after, you're trying to keep up with them and have all the superficial things that you can, you lack more than just bread. You lack understanding, and understanding is very important, and we've seen that throughout this study so far in Proverbs. And so, in verse number 12, the wicked desireth the net of evil men, but the root of the righteous yieldeth fruit. What's the purpose of a net? Plunder, which is to do what? Steal, to catch, right? And when you look at, again, the wicked desireth the net. You're trying to, and you go back and look at it, desireth, the catch. Whatever, that's what you do with a net, right? You catch things, whatever it is. And so it is in its nature of the wicked to, they basically covet what others have. Even if it's the catch of evil men, it doesn't matter who it is. They just see something that somebody has and they want it. They covet after it, and so in this, they sin in the covetousness and the longing for what has been gained by these evil people. But he says the root of the righteous yields fruit. Righteous men and women, we don't need to covet what evil men have, right? We don't need to look around and see what other people have and say, really covet what anybody has, much less evil men. Why is that? Because we are like fruit-bearing trees. God gives us everything that we need. We're rooted in Him and grounded in Him, and fruit comes from the very root from who we are, and so we don't have to. That fly is going to aggravate me. There's always something flying around up here. Y'all, he can go right back wherever he came from. But anyway, verse 13, the wicked is snared by the transgression of his lips, but the just shall come out of trouble. The transgressions of his lips, what do you think that is? What's that? Lying? Yeah. What's that? Gossip? Well, what does all that tend to do for people? What's that? It hurts people. But doesn't it eventually, if no matter what it is, lying, gossiping, if I come over here and I tell Brother Carl something, and Brother Carl then goes to somebody else and says, you won't believe what Brother Jerry told me. And now whatever I told him may be a lie, it may be gossip, it may be whatever, but I've just told him that. Now he's told somebody else that I've told him that, and they're going to go and tell somebody else that I told Brother Carl that, and Brother Carl told them that. Guess what's going to happen? I'm eventually going to be trapped in that. Just like if you tell a lie, you're going to have to tell another lie to cover that lie, right? So you're constantly telling, and so you're in a trap. And that's what he's talking about here is that, listen, we get in that trap, and it's by our lips. It eventually get them in trouble. It'll become a snare that they're trapped in, and those people will eventually be found out in their own ruin, because that stuff, you're going to get caught eventually, I'm sure. So he says, the wicked is ensnared by the transgressions of their lips, by the things that they say, but the just shall come out of trouble. I think this is one of those things. So the wicked person is going to put themselves in trouble, right? That's just natural way of doing things for a wicked person. But the righteous, does that mean we're not going to experience trouble? No. He doesn't, and by the way, he does not say that here at all. He says, but the just shall come out of trouble. So we may go into trouble. We may experience trouble, but guess what? God's going to get us out. We're not trapped. We're not going to be held up in that. And so we're going to come through it as Jesus said in John 16:33. He says, in the world you will have tribulation. But what did he say after that? Anybody remember? He said, be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. So listen, yeah, you're going to have trouble in the world, but don't let that get you down. Don't let that bother you. Don't let that just cause you to want to give up and go away. You just need to have faith, have confidence, and stay positive, because I've overcome the world. And greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world. Verse number 14. A man shall be satisfied with good by the fruit of his mouth, and the recompense of a man's hand shall be rendered unto him. So a righteous man finds blessings come to his life by what he says, by the fruit of his mouth. So how do we do that? What is that talking about? I was talking about the words that we say. We are good and kind and encouraging words will bring life to you, and it'll bring life to others. But on the other hand, the recompense of a man's hands will be rendered, and so a man will receive what he's worked for, right? He'll receive evil for evil. He'll receive good, for good. And so God's judgments are true and fitting. And so we have to understand that. So you can be positive. You can say positive things, upbuilding things, encouraging things, and bring life to yourself or others. Or you can do the opposite of that, and you're going to reap whatever you sow, in a sense, is what he's saying here. In verse number 15, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he that hearkeneth unto counsel is wise. A foolish person always thinks they're on the right path. They're never wrong. They always, I've been that foolish person before, and speaking, I've been it spiritually before, but I'll just tell you, I kind of looked at this and I thought, man, that's, the time I've shared with y'all, it always goes back to this, Brother Carl. Whenever I'm just going to say my GPS, whenever it went out and I just knew I knew where I was going. I was on the right path. I only end up getting further and further and further away from where I was supposed to be. It was foolish of me to think that I would be wrong, or I would not be wrong, right? Or there was a time Heidi and I were going somewhere. I don't even, may have been to another church to preach. I don't remember. And she told me, she said, I think we're going the wrong way. And I said, no, we're not. I know right where I'm at. I didn't have a clue where I was. I'll just be honest with you. I wouldn't have told her that in the moment, but she shouldn't have told me I didn't know where I was in the wrong place. Right? That was that Heidi on that occasion. And that one doesn't have a mute button either, by the way. She's gone for the week, y'all, so if I want her to know any of this, I will tell her myself, all right? Or if she watches this, somebody's going to tell her to go back and watch this, and y'all better be at the altar. Remember, you don't stir up strife. The righteous ain't stirring up strife. What was I saying? A couple bucks, right? Can be paid off. So again, the way of a fool is right in his own mind and is right in his own eyes. He always thinks he's right and never thinks he's wrong. But he that hearkeneth unto counsel is wise. And I was not hearkening, that's for sure. But a wise person is understands the value of counsel, and especially godly counsel, right? And you just can't go through life thinking that you always are right and that you're never wrong. That's just part of it. We all need some counsel occasionally and guidance and direction, and so a wise person understands that it's helpful to get that. It's I'll tell you, there have been times where, you kind of looking at this, there's been times where I've been working on things before and I'm trying to get something to fit or work and I just can't get it to do it. And so you call somebody else over and they look at it and they get it to work. And might have even been doing very similar to what you did, but there was just one little thing that could have been changed along the way and they got it figured out. Sometimes it's okay to have an extra set of eyes on something, right? It never hurts to do that. And and so that's wise. That's wisdom, is being able to accept that we're not always right. I know for some of us that's hard to grasp, but it's truth. Verse 16, a fool's wrath is presently known. And I love this one, y'all. A fool's wrath is presently known, but a prudent man covereth shame. In other words, listen, the fool has no self-control, right? If someone makes them angry or someone does something they don't like or, they're going to respond. The fool is going to respond immediately, right? What's wrong with that? Think before you speak. But whenever we are in that situation, think about it. If somebody's ever made you mad and you respond right then and there, you're going to say something you shouldn't have. You want to know why? Because you're reacting on emotion. And so when we react in emotion, that's not the way to respond to things, right? Because we haven't given ourselves a clear chance to have a clear mind on the situation. Haven't had a chance to think about how should I respond to this situation. I'm going to tell you, it's one of the worst things that we can ever do is to react on emotion, because you will make poor decisions. You will say things that you wish you had not said. You might do things you wish you had not done. It's very important for us to think about that and understanding. So, he says that the fool, basically, they respond. They know. Their wrath is known immediately. However, a prudent man, he said, covers shame. What does that mean? I wouldn't say sweep it under the rug. I don't know that sweeping things under the rug is even biblical. I think because what good does that do, right? Well, it doesn't solve anything. I tell people this in premarital counseling, that's one of the worst things you can do in a marriage is to just sweep things under the rug. Because if you ever sweep anything under a rug, what tends to happen? Sweep all that dirt under that rug without picking it up. Eventually, what's going to happen? You're going to have a hump under that rug, and people will be like, "What's that?" Or somebody's going to fall and get hurt, right? I mean, you're going to step on it, twist your ankle, whatever. So it's not sweeping it under the rug, but what it is it's taking time to think about it. You take it and you have to thoughtfully respond to situations. And so it goes back to thinking before you speak, right? What Miss Margie said, thinking before you speak. And so you heard that a lot. You need to think before you speak. I've probably heard it. I don't know that I listen to it every time. I probably let it go in and out one or the other. But is it which part? Thinking before you speak or letting it go in one ear and out the other? Oh, it may be both for me. I don't know, but the other part may be just a Riggs thing. I don't know. So it's not so much that the wise man represses the anger or the feelings, but I would say it's probably that they're more shrewd in how they deal with it. You take a more thoughtful approach with how we deal with those things, and that's how it should be. And that's one of those things that's easier said than done, but whenever you look at that and you see that it says a fool's wrath, I don't want to be a fool. And so fool's wrath is presently known. And so I got to do better, right? Verse 17. He that speaketh truth showeth forth righteousness, but a false witness, deceit. So the words of the wise are filled with truth, and so therefore they reflect righteousness, right? Because God's truth is that. And so, but a false witness, they don't speak the truth. They promote deceit instead of righteousness. And you look at this, I mean, God is truth, right? And so we should speak truth as the righteous. That's what we should do. Who's the father of all lies? Satan. He's very deceitful, right? So it should not surprise us that he was a false witness too, wasn't he? Wasn't he a false witness to Eve in the garden? He's a false witness to us all the time. He was a false witness to Jesus, right? He tried to take and twist Scripture on Jesus in the wilderness whenever Jesus had been in the wilderness fasting and tried to get him to believe things that were not true. And so, when you look at that and you look at that contrast, compare and contrast here, that hey, we need to speak truth as children of God, and a false witness is deceit, and I don't want to be one of those. I'm not here to try to deceive anybody. I'm not here to try to fool anybody. Verse 18. There is that speaketh like the piercing of a sword, but the tongue of the wise is health. Again, we've kind of talked about this just a little bit previously, but there are some people that it's almost like they don't know, and maybe they do, I don't know. But some people just speak in a manner that just stabs and slices others. There's never anything good, never anything positive. It's just always, it may be negative, or it may be, they don't know how to do, because that's what he's talking about here, is that there are those that speak like the piercing of a sword. The things they say they just daggers. They just cut you to the core. They're sharp. They're not. There's nothing good out of it. But look what he says. But the tongue of the wise is health. So we have a choice. And as children of God, if we want to put wisdom on display and have that wisdom, then he says, listen, the words you say should be for edification. Because even in correction, right, there's a right way and a wrong way to correct people. You can correct them and you can belittle them and make them feel like they're idiots. You can make them feel like they're the biggest failures on the face of this earth. Or you can correct them in a way that will edify them, that will build them up, that will let them see. Now, again, it doesn't matter how they're going to receive that correction. So you and I are not to determine how somebody receives that correction. We've already seen that the fool despises that, right? But the wise will take that counsel, will take that correction and use it for their own good. But on the flip side of that, we do have a choice if we're the ones that are giving the correction on how are we going to do that. What are we going to say to people whenever they mess up? What are we going to say to people whenever they've fallen short or they've failed? Again, we can beat them down, we can hurt them, we can use words that will stab them and pierce to the deepest parts of their being, or we can use the words that will build them up and help them. We have that choice. And so we have to understand that our words should promote health and healing in the words that we speak. I mean, you can go out and if all you could do is go up to somebody and tell them they're a dirty, rotten, nasty sinner who's headed straight to hell, and you leave it at that, guess what? you didn't help that person. But I told them the truth. Not in love, right? Not in love. There's a difference. I mean, Jesus made it very clear that you're a sinner in need of a Savior, and that you have a choice to make. You can put your faith and trust in Him, or you cannot. But He didn't do it in a way that would just, like a sword, piercing them and hurting them. Because, I mean, the piercing of a sword, I don't know about you, I've been, just yesterday I was out working in the yard, and I got caught up in some briars. And them things hurt. I mean, hurt. And they just keep on hurting. I had to pick all them little things out of me because I raked it across, and I just cleaned that briar, that vine right off with all those things. It was all in my finger, my arm, my ankle. And that hurt, but I can't imagine the piercing of a sword. But I tell you this, I've had people correct me or talk to me in ways that's what it was like. I'm sure, because it hurt. It wasn't good. It didn't help me. It hurt me. And so we have a choice to make in how we do those things, and the words that we say, and the Word of God says, but the tongue of the wise promotes health, is beneficial. Verse number 19, the lip of truth shall be established forever, but a lying tongue is but for a moment. God looks after those that love and speak the truth, and truth doesn't change, does it? Truth is truth forever. It does not. Lies change, right? Folks will lie and they will change from this to this to this. Well, that's not what I meant to say. That's what I said. Listen, that's truth does not change. It's established forever. However, what he says here is lies do change. They, the lying tongue is but for a moment. It's going to say one thing now, but it's going to say another thing later on down the line. And so we have to understand that a lying tongue may win the day, but it's not going to win forever, right? It's going to eventually fail, and the judgment of God is going to show that temporary success of the lying tongue. Verse number 20. Deceit is in the heart of them that imagine evil, but to the counselors of peace is joy. Again, deceit is in the heart of those that devise evil. Those who devise evil practice deceit, and in their heart. And again, we talked about this before, that God knows our thoughts, right? So it's devised there before it ever even becomes action. There's something corrupt in their core, and it's called the sin nature that finds expression outwardly. And so deceit's in the heart of those who devise evil. It's already there. It's not anything that, but he says counselors of peace have joy. There is happiness, and by the way, joy is contentment, right? That's how we talk about it, that joy is not circumstantial. Joy is having contentment. That's how I have joy, because I have Christ. Nothing can ever change that. I could lose everything I have today, but I still should have contentment. Why? I should still have joy. Why? Because I have Christ. I have all that I need. I don't need anything else. I know we can sit here and say, well, you need food and water and drink. Yeah, I do, but guess what? If something happens and I were to have to go long enough to starve myself to death, which would be a long time, listen, not like it used to be, you're right. But guess what? I still should be content, because I know what I have waiting for me after this life. So joy is contentment, and so there's a happiness and contentment that comes to those who speak words of peace, and it's this counselors of peace have joy. Verse 21. There shall no evil happen to the just, but the wicked shall be filled with mischief. It's interesting because it says no evil shall happen. In other words, we won't be overtaken by trouble. And we've talked about this just a little bit already. You know, bad things happen, right? And sometimes we are casualties of that. However, it won't overtake us. It won't consume us. It's God who manages the degree and the duration of the trouble that we face. You go and think about it whenever the disciples went out on the boat on the Sea of Galilee in the middle of the storm. First of all, he knew before he sent them out there was a storm going to come. And he knew he wasn't going to be with them. And yet he sent them out there anyway. Well, he could have went and ran immediately to their boat as soon as the storm started and calmed them from right there and got immediately to the other side just like he did when he came to them. However, he came when the time was right. He came, God's always on time, amen? He's never late, never behind, and so it's him who manages the degree and the duration of the trouble, the depth of the trouble, but especially whenever we look at it in light of eternity, that there will be no grave trouble that will overtake the righteous. It can't destroy us. We're his. But the wicked will be filled with evil. So in the contrast, the wicked will receive the result of their wickedness. They will not be rescued from their trouble because they pursued evil, and they will be filled with evil. That's what they want. That's what they're going to get. And it doesn't mean they can't be saved, but as long as they continue to chase after that and pursue evil, and that's what they're going to get. Verse 22. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but they that deal truly are his delight. So again, don't be a liar, right? We've seen this, the 7 things that God hates, right? A lying tongue is certainly one of them. And so, God does not, he frowns upon that. That's not something that, he says it's an abomination. That is of the utmost hate. God can't stand it. He's not going to tolerate it. He's not going to put up with it. But they that deal truly, those that tell the truth, those that speak the truth, are his delight. So you have the choice on that. Verse 23. A prudent man concealeth knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaimeth foolishness. It's a mark of wisdom. And I think that we have to understand this. So a prudent man conceals knowledge. What does that mean? Let's talk about that for just a moment. What does that mean? What's that? Yeah, it's you don't always have to share everything you know. Right? Some things are better kept to yourself. Yeah? Especially if you know something about somebody else. You don't, just because you know it and it may be true, don't mean you have to go and tell somebody else. But Brother Carl wasn't supposed to tell nobody else. He's done lost. I know we done lost him. She was referencing back to me telling you something and you telling somebody else. And so I said, sometimes it's best not to tell everything that everybody else. Yeah, here we go. Wasn't me. Right? That's what they say in preschool, ain't it, Miss Shirlene? It wasn't me. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. But sometimes, again, the prudent man conceals knowledge. Again, everything you know, you don't have to share. Especially if it harms or disgraces somebody. If it'll bring edification, share it. If it'll help somebody, share it. But if it's going to hurt somebody, if it's going to bring disgrace to somebody, keep it to yourself. It's not your place to share. It's not going to do any good. And so a prudent man conceals that, but the heart of the fool proclaims it. In other words, the foolish will run around and tell everything to everybody. They don't care who it hurts. They don't care what damage it does. That doesn't matter. It's the nature of the fool to proclaim foolishness. And verse 24, the hand of the diligent shall bear rule, but the slothful shall be under tribute.